Yeah, what the we didn't do an assessment.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on this nice sunny day down here in London. Just going to wait couple more minutes for everyone to join up.
Please can we ask that everyone puts themselves on mute? Well, we have quite a few people joining, so we need to ensure that we can hear Jeff presenting.
Okay, I think we'll start now. There's clearly a few more people still to join, but right now we've got over 125 of you, so that's a good number to get going on. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here this morning. My name's Jeff Russell-Jones, Head of Grants at UK Youth. And also here today with me is a Grants Officer for UK Youth, my colleague Simi. And we've also got Kerry doing lots of technical stuff in the background somewhere. So we're here for the next hour and a half to talk about the UK Youth Fund Thriving Minds. We're going to go through the application, talk about why we're doing it, how we got to this point, the best way to complete an application, and discussing things like eligibility and putting your best foot forward. That will go on for about 40 minutes, and then we will have an open Q&A session where you can ask whatever questions are on your mind. If while I'm talking, a pertinent question comes to mind, you can write it in the chat box, and Simi will be monitoring this. She will either respond to it directly, or if she thinks it's a question that perhaps everyone would like to hear and know the answer to, she might interrupt me and pitch the question live. Or we'll wait and deal with it after the 40 minutes. Okay, so let's get on with things then. If we could pop to the next slide. So first of all, we're at UK Youth here. We believe in the potential of young people, and we believe that youth work can be a catalyst for change to positively transform the lives of young people for the better. What specifically we're doing in the grants department here is we are going out into the sector to the government, corporate organisations and other trusts and foundations and sources of funding. And on your behalf, we are campaigning for increased investment into the sector. And when that happens, sometimes it's just a big nudge on the government to run their own grant programme. But what we're also doing is trying to secure funds directly ourselves. And then that's where Simi and I step in and create programmes to distribute it into the sector. So how did we get here into this position? So pop to the next slide, please. So we had a fund that we ran in summer last year that was called the UK Youth Fund COVID Resilience. And that was in partnership with Julian Hand's Rousing Trust. That specific fund was to help organisations rebuild after the financial disruption that they would have experienced due to the pandemic. And it was very successful. However, when we were assessing applications to the fund, we noticed that significant majority of all the applications referred to mental health issues that were being experienced by young people and also the youth workers in these organisations. Now, in our fund, we made no reference to mental health. So we weren't prompting organisations to talk about mental health at all, yet almost all applicants did. This was quite startling to us. So after the fund was distributed, we sat down with Julian Hand's Rousing Trust and discussed this. And they were really motivated to do something about it. They felt that such a sort of cry for help from the youth sector could not go unheeded. So we sat down with them and some mental health professionals and organisations to look at what could we do to improve mental health provision and provide increased support for youth workers working with young people who are experiencing or presenting with mental health problems. And to their credit, Julia and Hand's Rousing have really stepped up, and they have pledged £10 million to this fund to improve youth support and provision in the mental health arena, which is just a really incredible and generous action on their part. But we're not stopping there. We are continuing to fundraise for this programme. It will be a 3-year unrestricted grant programme. And we are hoping that that £10 million pot will be increasing. And we have every belief that it will increase soon and throughout the next 3 years. So this brings us to Thriving Minds, UK Youth Fund Thriving Minds. Next slide, please, which is the fund. And you can go to the next slide after that. So what is it? It is an unrestricted multi-year fund that will last for 3 years. So the awards that we offer in May of this year, we will be 3-year grants. So with the intention of what you receive in the first year will be what you will be receiving in the following 2 years. But it's not just about money. Really, the biggest part of this programme is the wraparound support that we will be providing. This will include training and resources offered by mental health partners, experts, access to grantee networks to share best practice, and we'll all be working to support to build local partnerships and bridge gaps between the youth and mental health services. There are many aspects to this programme that we will be offering and working on, and we're building on those right now. But the key thing for us is to ensure that the organisations that engage in this programme aren't burdened by having to commit personnel and staff to the programme or to run things that they don't have the funding for. So that's where the funding comes in, to help build the capacity within your organisation and the skills. And it is hoped that over the 3 years, your organisations will become leaders in the provision and delivery of mental health support as a part of your youth programme. So we're talking about sports clubs, boxing clubs, for instance, that you've got a coach there that is working with a young person. And while they're talking to them about their fitness or their technique, maybe the young person mentions things or presents themselves in a way that makes the youth worker realize that there is something going on and they are struggling with mental health issues. We want to give that youth worker the skills and the resources and the confidence to be able to deal with that situation in the best possible way. Okay. The support we are offering is going to be a whole smorgasbord of a menu for you to choose from. There'll be a mixture of one-to-one support, online provision, in-person workshops, trainings, communities of practice, residentials even. And these will go on throughout the 3 years. We will pitch them first over the first year, but we very much will be working with the grantees, successful grantees, to find out exactly what the provision is you require and hopefully providing that for you. So let's get into the application form, and we're going to guide you through how this works. So if you clicked on the link to the application form, this will probably be the first thing you will see. If you've not applied to us through Do It before, then you need to register. This is just a pure little technicality. It doesn't impact on the assessment of the grant. So what you need to do is put in your organization name, that's the most important thing, your address, and what is incredibly vital, your email address. Please check that you type that in right. It's amazing the number of people that get typos in there, and then that just messes the whole system up. So just please put the email address in really clearly, your postal address, and your organization type and name. It asks you here for a little bit about your organization. You can put a few words, but it's really not that important. It doesn't go into the form. And once you've done that and you've registered, it'll take you to the landing page, which is this. So this presents you with the basic information about the fund. Please look here at these tabs. They give you, tell you how to apply, who can apply. Most importantly, over on the right-hand side here, your resources. So these are a couple of PDFs that we've produced. There's the FAQs, which aim to answer all the questions we think you might have, plus also the application guidance, which is more descriptive support on each question and how you should answer that. Please read these two documents first. There's a huge amount of information in there. And as I say, almost every question will be answered within those documents, and they'll help you make a good application. Once you've done all that, click on Join to Apply. And you will come through to the Eligibility Quiz. Relatively straightforward, but I'll just quickly run through the key points. You have to be an organisation that is based in the UK and delivering work in the UK. Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and England. You have to have an income of under £500,000 in your last accounts. Reason we're doing this is we were looking at what sort of provision and funding is out there currently for this type of thing. And we felt that there was a gap in what was being offered to smaller organisations. And it is very common for much smaller organisations to really get pushed out the picture when the ceiling for turnover is too high. You have to be a charitable or not-for-profit organisation, and we need proof of that. So you will be asked to upload a governing document or some such thing that states that you are a charity or not-for-profit organisation. You need to be a youth organisation or an organisation whose primary purpose is benefiting children or young people. And by that, we define young people as anyone between the ages of 8 and 25. We've said 70% of your organisation's beneficiaries. As you'll hear, there's no such thing as a red line really with us, but it's 2/3, a good amount. We're not going to come around and count every last kid that you're working with, but hopefully you know the idea. If you're just a community organisation that does a little bit of youth work on the side, we're probably not the one for you. You need to have been operational for a couple of years. This is so that we know that we're not looking to fund any brand new startup organizations here. We're looking for people who are already established, know what they're doing, have a base of young people that they are working with and their staff already in place. We need to see your accounts, at least 1 full year's accounts. And if possible, please upload them with your application. It really helps us to be able to access them immediately if they're right there or then, they're right there. And otherwise, if they're available online, let us know where we can find them. And then the next points are to ensure that you're properly set up with your safeguarding health and safety policy. You've got your insurances, qualifications and affiliations all down, and that you comply with the Equalities Act and data protection regulations, standard operating procedure really for most of your organizations. Then number 10, vital this one, because this fund is not just about money, it is really about who is going to be the best to engage in this program. Who's going to get the most out of the wraparound support? So we need a commitment from you that if you receive this grant, you will be able to engage properly and attend the core activities of the fund. That's why we're providing the money, okay, so that you can engage with us. And then finally, just the technical things that you allow us to share your data with our funding partners and assessors. That's as far as your data will go. We'll not be using it for any purposes other than directly related to this grant and its assessment, and that you are authorized by your organization to make this application. So pretty standard procedures. You need to tick all of those, and if you tick all of those correctly, you'll go through to the next page and into the questions. So the key first page is your contact details. And I'm just going to say this again because it is, a lot of applicants, they really focus on the further on questions, talking about their organization. They don't check that they put their contact details in. And like I say, a typo here could really mess everything up for you. So please double check you've put all your information in correctly. You will notice that unlike some organizations, we don't ask you for your contact details, your manager's contact details, your trustee's contact details, a backup contact details. We're just trying to make things simple. So it's just one person that makes sure you put those in correctly. As I've mentioned earlier, we need to see your governing document, that it states clearly that you are a charitable or not-for-profit organization. And here is a request. When you upload a file to accompany this application, can you please ensure that the name of your organization is the name of the file? Okay, so whatever your organization is called, and then you can put Gov document or something. It makes it incredibly easier for us to then locate your file further on as your application progresses and make sure the correct file goes with the correct application. If you upload a file that is just got a file name of randomly generated numbers, that's really difficult for us because then we've got to open each file to see whose it is. We ask you about website, social media. Online material is incredibly useful to assessors. If you've attended some of my previous talks, you will know about this. All assessors, once we've looked at your application, if you've tweaked our interest, if we think, oh, this is a contender, the very next thing we are going to do is go online. We're going to look at your website for further information. We're going to check your social media. We're going to look maybe on the Charity Commission website or Companies House. Okay, we're going to find out about you. So make sure that all that sort of online presence that you have is up to date and paints you in a favorable light. Next slide, please. Okay, then we go on to the next section. This is the real, the meat of the application. These questions have a character count of, I think, about 2,000 characters. You don't need to use the entire character count, okay? We've put it up to that maximum amount because we appreciate that some people may not be so good with words and need more of them to get their message across. That's fine. But if you can get your message across more succinctly in just a couple of hundred words, do that, okay? Don't feel that because you haven't used all the space to answer your question that you can be marked down. That's not the case at all. Just get your message across as succinctly as possible. So first of all, briefly explain your work that you do, that your organization does. How exactly do you work with young people? So do you run activities once a week, twice a week, every night? What sort of activities do you provide? You know, that granular detail, paint a picture of what your organization does. And, you know, don't miss the wood for the trees here. It may be really obvious and clear to you what you do, and you may forget to actually put in those obvious details. Those are the things that really paint the picture. That first question is to paint the picture in the assessor's mind of what sort of our organization you are, how you do what you do, where you do it, how often. We will then, the next question, ask you, and how many people do you do that with? So how many young people do you directly engage with over the year? Now, directly engage with, we mean you have a youth worker talking to them and they are answering back. That's the best definition of it. So if you're a theatre group, we are not talking about your audience. Okay, we're talking about the young people that you're actually working with on stage or in workshops or whatnot. So that, please, you know, try and bear that in mind as far as an engagement, yes? And then we asked you, what are the mental health and well-being needs of the young people you are working with and your youth workers? So, why are you applying to us? What have you noticed? What are the issues that are going on? Now, just to be clear, we're not asking you to tell us about the global picture in your country or county. We're asking about what have you seen with your young people and your workers, okay? This is direct evidence. We're not looking for you to quote government reports or, you know, big pieces of research or the indice of deprivation, yeah? We're looking for your experience, your understanding of what is happening on the ground. Next slide, please. And then, once you've stated that, so you've painted the picture with those first 3 questions, now it's, well, what about it? What are you doing to meet these needs and challenges currently? Are you talking to the young people? Are you trying to, are you working with other partners? Have you brought additional resources in? Or maybe you've got a really clear idea of what you need to do, but you just don't have the resources and capacity to do that, okay? That's what we would need to hear from you. What exactly how are you going to tackle or improve what you're doing? And then we asked you about the involvement of young people. Now, it is a crucial thing in everything that UK Youth does, is that young people, we are ensured that young people are involved in the process. They're not being talked down to. So what we're not looking for here is an application from a few maybe youth workers and trustees that have just got into a room together and they thought, this is what's going to work. We think this is the problem, so this is what we want to do. What we want to know is that you've actually engaged with your young people. You've heard from them what the issues are. You've heard from them about how they think their mental health can be improved or what you can do to improve that. Yeah, we want to know about that input that has taken place. Now, this question is particularly important if you are a full-time fundraiser, okay, and you're not necessarily engaged in the delivery of work and provision of work to young people. If that's you, then what you need to do is you need to get together with a youth worker and you need to get them to feed into you and this application on the young people's involvement and in the design and the implementation and the creation of your plans and ideas to support their mental health. We've then asked you, we've highlighted certain, what we've called focus groups. These focus groups are areas that have been identified by the mental health practitioners that we were working with as key areas that are important and that are in need in the sector. So what we would like to know is how much you work with these organizations, these focus groups, sorry. Now, just to be clear, this isn't you must be working with these types of groups, but it is to help you look at, well, which of your young people fall into these focus groups? So those from racialized communities, those young people who are experiencing poverty, who are experiencing discrimination due to their gender or their sexuality, who've had experience of trauma, or are from rural communities and are dealing with issues related to that. Okay, these focus groups are a great way, an opportunity for you to hang your application on them, to explain about how these young people from these groups are coping while they are working with your organization, and how many of them are in what proportion of the young people you engage with come from these groups. Now, the next two questions on these page are about the money directly. So there is, obviously, I've talked about the wraparound, the support, but the big bit, the draw, is the money. How much money are you asking for? And how will that improve your mental health support and provision for young people and your youth workers? Now, the funding is unrestricted, so you can spend this any which way you like. But we want to know that however you've chosen to spend it, it is going to have an impact on your mental health provision. Okay, maybe you've got some real clear ideas on what you want to do, and this money will pay for that. Maybe you just want your youth workers just really overstretched and you want to increase capacity of your youth workers so that they can properly engage in our wraparound support. Perhaps you're just struggling to keep your doors open and the lights on and pay your rent and utility bills. And knowing that this funding can cover those costs will free up the capacity, with the wider capacity within your organization to then improve your mental health support and engage in the wraparound support. Okay, that's the sort of question, a way that we want you to answer this question. We are not asking you to itemize what you're going to spend the money on. Okay, we're not looking for lists. It's just, how is it going to be, in what fashion is it going to be spent, and how will that help? And then we ask you to put that in one figure. So how much money are you asking for us? This should be the annual amount. Now, we are not going to make grants of over £50,000 a year. So don't put more than £50,000 in there. We're also not going to fund the majority of your entire turnover. Okay, so if you are an organisation whose turnover is £70,000, don't put £50,000 in there, because we're not going to fund that level of funding for you. Okay, put what is reasonable for you to engage in our programme to ensure that you have the resources and capacity necessary, and that this programme will not be a burden on you. Okay, next question, please. Next question, next slide, please. And what can you spend the money on? Well, as I said, it is unrestricted, but there are a few things that are a no-no. So that's for any costs that you will be incurring before the 1st of May, because we intend to inform you at the beginning of May, around May 11th, from the 11th of May, of our funding decisions. Redundancy costs we can't cover, or quite obviously any costs or losses that have already been supported through other funding or sources such as government furlough schemes or anything like that. You are not allowed to make any onward grant making. So we give you the grant, you can't then make grants to either individuals or organisations, and nothing related to campaigning or the promotion of any particular religion, faith, or political persuasion. If you are a religious organisation that runs an open access youth group that is open to anyone in the community, regardless of their religion, and you do not cover religious topics or points of belief in your provision, then you are still eligible. Next slide, please. Right, finances, the 3rd page, this final page here, and this is really important to get right. It is amazing the number of applications I read that fall down when it comes to the finances. I would have read previous questions talking about the organisation. I think, wow, this is fabulous. What they're talking about really hits the point. It's on the money. And then we look at their finances and they're all over the place. And your heart sinks as an assessor, because if the finances are all over the place, you can't put them through. So the first thing is, we are asking you to upload a copy of your accounts with this application. Please make sure you do that. And please make sure that the numbers that you put into your application relate to those accounts. Okay, so we ask you for your income, your expenditure, your fundraising costs, and the level of your free reserves. Your income and expenditure will definitely be in your accounts. So make sure those are the same figures that you put down in your application form. Your fundraising costs may not be listed in your accounts, but I'm sure every organisation does some fundraising of some sort. Perhaps you're the CEO and you spend a day a week or a day a fortnight doing fundraising stuff. So kind of work out on the back of a piece of paper what that amounts to, what that costs of a day of your time, and put that in as an annual figure, please. Okay, just so we've got a rough idea of what you're doing as regarding your fundraising. And then your free reserves, these should be listed in your accounts, okay? That's what we want to know, so put those down. For all of these answers, please only enter numbers, no words, no descriptions, no punctuation. If you put words and whatnot in there, it really messes up our documents when we export your information onto an Excel document, yeah? So please, for our sake, just only enter numbers. And the final question, I believe it's question number 28, that is the text box question, which allows you to add a comment about anything to do with your finances that you think we need to know. Now, this is really important. So if there is something about your finances that doesn't quite look right, but you have an explanation for it, write about it in that box. So for example, if your expenditure last year was much more than your income, if it looks like you spent far more money than you brought in, that could be an issue, but it could quite easily be explained. Maybe just you had the way your money came in and went out over that year caused that. Maybe it was because of the pandemic that upset your normal income levels. Whatever it is, I'm sure there could be an explanation. That's your opportunity to explain it, because if you don't, then the assessor will just come to their own conclusions, and that might not be very positive. Similarly, if your reserves are looking funny, if they're a bit too high, or your fundraising costs look too high, but there's a good explanation for them, put them down. So with the reserves, perhaps you just before your year end, you received a very large grant that filled up your reserves or some such thing, or you moved around your capital that you have. Whatever the reason, explain it there so that assessors don't jump to the wrong conclusion. Next slide, please. So, taking all of this into account, what are we looking at when we are assessing your applications? We are looking at the mental health need of your young people and your youth workers. Okay, you've got to get that across. You've got to present that there is an issue and a need. We are looking for engagement of young people within your organization and, to a certain extent, within this application. We are looking for legacy and partnership. So this is confidence that your organization will last and thrive over the next 3 years and beyond. And we're also looking for organizations that have either already struck up partnerships with other organizations, be those other youth organizations or perhaps mental health organizations, or if you are enthusiastic about starting those partnerships and creating them as part of this fund. Value for money, which is an awful term, I know, when we're talking about mental health and young people, but essentially, we want to know that the funding that you've received in the past has been put to good use, that you run a relatively tight ship, that the support that we will be giving you will come back in improved mental health work for good impact on young people. And experience and understanding. So, have you done anything like this before? Your awareness of what is happening with young people. And also there's we do give reference, make reference to this both in the application form, in the FAQs and in the guidance about the Wellcome Trust produced this report on what it called active ingredients. And these were interventions and activities that they found could have a very positive impact on young people's mental health in particular, okay? We've linked in the FAQs to this report for you to have a little look at. So what we want to know is that you understand how the types of provision that you deliver to young people can have that beneficial impact on their mental health and also of your youth workers, okay? Next slide, please. So before you write your application, please read the FAQs, read the application guidance, consult the young people you work with, consult your youth workers, and seriously consider your ability to commit to the wraparound support. This is a 3-year grant program. And at the end of the first year, you will be required to fill in a grant report, as any funder would expect of you. And yes, we'll ask you how the money we have given you has been spent. But the main thing that will ensure that you get the following year's funding will be how you engaged in the wraparound support. So quite frankly, if you take the first year's funding, but then we hardly see you at all engaging in the wraparound support, that's probably the only thing that is likely to ensure you don't get the following year's funding, okay? So please make sure that you do that. And I'm just going to jump in on a quick question that popped up there on how much you ask for. So the maximum funding we will offer is £50,000 a year. That's £150,000 over the 3-year term. What do we expect people to apply for? We expect most of them to be around between £15,000 and £45,000. Is there a lower limit on what you can ask for? Not really, no, but we want to ensure that you are going to be able to engage in what we are offering. That comes to the end of this section. Right, we're going to blast into questions. We can probably lose the slides now. And I'll open it up to Simi, who is moderating questions.
Yeah, I have a few. So I've collated a few that have come up a few times. So one being around capital costs. It's an unrestricted fund. Can we fund capital costs?
Sure. Okay, can I just ask for everyone else to make sure you're muted, because it's a little tricky to hear if microphones are on. So that was about capital costs. Yeah, it's if that is going to improve your mental health provision, okay? That's what we want to know, okay? So it is unrestricted. You can put the funding to whatever you wish, but we have to understand and be excited about how you're spending that money. Okay, so you need to make the argument about why you're putting it into a capital project.
Thanks, Jeff. Another question just around if you have to be a youth organization, so can you be a mental health charity working with young people?
Yes, you can, but we need to know that the majority of the people you are working with are young people within our age group. We're really focusing here on significant youth provision. So long as that applies to you, then you are eligible.
And then following on from that, do we have any guidance around the number of young people that we're asking organizations to be engaging with?
Well, no, it's you work with who you work with. It's not a figure you can change. It's whoever you're working with, that's who you're working with. It's not how many do you hope to work with? How many are you currently working with over the year?
Thanks, Jeff. I'm just going through the other questions. 1 second.
Sure. I'm going to pick up on one thing I saw, which I'll just explain on. And so we said that you have to be in operation for 2 years. I appreciate that within the past 2 years, some organizations may have changed their status or how they are constructed. That is absolutely fine. If you've just recently become a charity, but you were operating previously to that, that's perfectly fine. Make sure you explain it in the application form so we are aware. What we want to know is that you already have a base of young people, a base of operations, a base of youth workers that you are working with and providing to the community with. Right, who's next?
Sorry, I've managed to like group a lot of the questions, so I'm skipping quite a few because it looks like we've addressed. So I'm just, yes, we've answered that.
I'm going to jump in. I saw one there about, just to reiterate, this funding is not just about supporting and improving the mental health of young people. It is very much also for the benefit of youth workers. I was very much aware when we were running, especially during the pandemic, when we were running other funds, just how strained and stressed so many of the youth workers I spoke to were. And we fully understand that particularly with small organizations, this can be tough because maybe there's only one or two of you in the entire organization and you have not only no one to turn to, but if you fall down, then there's no one to step in and replace you. So we appreciate on that the stress and the pressure that can be felt. So this is very much also directed at youth workers, okay, and supporting their mental health.
Thanks, Jeff. I have 3 questions on fundraising costs. I'll go through all of them, but I think you can give one answer. Why do you want to know fundraising costs? What are you looking for here? Our fundraising is done by volunteers, so we don't have a cost attached to fundraising. And then another point around, pro bono support. Fundraising costs being done through pro bono support. Yeah,
so if that's the case, just mention that in question 28, I believe it is. Just so you know, we we use volunteers to do our fundraising. What we want to do is just get a quick idea of how do you fundraise, and what are you doing to do that. And quite often, as I said, in many accounts, published accounts online, you see a number against the fundraising. And sometimes that's quite excessive with very little explanation. And we are very aware that there is no defined explanation on how you calculate your fundraising costs. So I've seen in some accounts, they're incredibly high, but then when you break it down, it's quite acceptable and understandable why it is that figure, because they've included so many different costs in there. And it's just an opportunity for you to address that issue. It helps us paint a picture of how your organization is set up and what you do to bring your income in.
Thanks, Jeff. I just want to clarify a point because I've seen quite a few of these questions in the chat just around grant amount requests. So we're asking you to tell us how much you would like us to fund you for the first year, just the first year for now. So hopefully that clears that up. I have a question that asks more information on the wraparound support for applicants to have an idea of what the commitment is.
Okay, we are still designing the wraparound support. We are going to ensure that we are not a burden to the grantees. Obviously, we want to provide things that are of use. What we don't want is to create a situation where you have to turn up and sit in a chair and through some session that you have no interest in, just so that you can say that you were there. We're not going to go down that route. It's about engagement. So the wraparound support will include, as I said, online activities and sessions and training. We'll try to do some in-person, and we're also hoping for a residential. We're aware this is a national program, so you're going to be spread all over the UK, and physical engagement may be more difficult for some than for others. We're going to take that all into account. But there will be regular contact, much more contact than you get with a normal fund. This will be from our project officers who will be looking to engage with you online, maybe via email. Great if it could be face-to-face, but it's just to see that you are picking up on the resources, you are making use of them, and that you are engaging with us. We are aware that we're not going to be burdensome on you. It's not going to be a case of you must turn up to this session and this session and this session on these dates, and if you don't, you lose your money. Okay, we're not going to be like that. We're going to be friendly and helpful to make sure that we are providing something that you need and want, and then all we want you to do is take advantage of that.
Thanks, Jeff. If we only need to ask for first year's cost, does that mean at the end of years 1 and 2, we reapply with possibly a different ask, or do we know what total funding we would get for 3 years?
Yeah, so the grant offer we make in May to grantees will be what we will be offering you for the following 2 years. So if you're successful, you will get a letter saying, congratulations, we would like to offer you a 3-year grant of £25,000 a year for the next 3 years. And that will be to cover costs and ensure that your organization is well set up to engage. However, that will not necessarily be the end of the funding available. We are expecting further funding to be made available to these grantees to then put in plans that we are developing and that we will develop over the next 3 years. So we have titled the 3 years Fund, Develop, Connect. So in the first year, we are looking very much at just getting funding into you guys, stabilizing you so that you can properly engage. The second year, develop. It's about working with the grantees to develop their capabilities, their capacity, their experience, and then skills. And then the third year, connect. And what was the word that someone, we had connect, someone also threw another word in there. What was it? Oh, I can never find it at the right time. Cascade, that was it, connect and cascade. So all the things that you've learned and developed, you then can push out to your community, to your peer organizations, and to other youth workers so that we can really get that spread. But yeah, what we offer you in the first year will be what you get in subsequent years as a minimum.
Thanks, Jeff. Can statutory county council run youth services apply, or can their youth workers benefit from the wraparound support if working alongside BCS organizations? I think I also had a question around schools and parish councils. Can you just clarify once again for everyone? Yeah. Who's eligible to apply for the fund? Thank you.
So the local authorities are not eligible, I'm afraid, or the statutory schools, and that will probably come under the parish councils as well. However, what we are encouraging, and this will probably work with the person that pitched the question, that if there is a youth organisation that you are supporting or working with, they can be, what we are accepting is partnership applications. So the smaller youth organisation can apply and they will be the lead organisation. It is to them that we will make the grants. But within their application, they can say we are making this in association with a youth support service or a parish council or so forth, so that those youth workers who perhaps may have greater experience and capacity, can help that smaller organisation, and while also benefiting from the wraparound support.
Thank you, Chair. I'm working through the chat. It is very busy, so please forgive me if I might happen to miss your question out. Loads of people are asking if they're eligible, if they've already applied, if they have received the grant from Julia and Hand in the past. Yes, you can. Well, from UK Youth, right? If you received the grant from us in October, you're eligible.
Okay, while you're having a look at those, I'll jump in on a few things that I've spotted. So what was it? There was a question about, oh God, it's just gone. Sorry, there's so many questions pop up that I read one and then I miss it. Can we apply for other grants in the next 3 years? Yes, is the quick answer to that. But like I say, these grantees, there will be further funding available for grantees in years 2 and 3 to help develop your plans for mental health support. Veronica, you're asking in the grant request, you put in the annual amount, please, of the amount you are asking for. So you should not be putting in more than £50,000. We are looking for that annual amount. How are we going to do this also? We're expecting that there will be in total up to about 100 grantees that will be successful from this fund. And I'm anticipating that there will be a range of grants awarded, probably between £15,000 and £45,000. I'm hoping for a broad range across that, probably less at the higher end so that we can get more people in. And will we cut, I saw someone ask, will we cut back from what you ask? Only if it's felt that it is unreasonable. So like I said, if you are a £70,000 organisation and you've asked for £50,000, when all the other £70,000 organisations have asked for like £15,000 or £20,000, then chances are, if the rest of your application has really blown us away, we'll knock you back so that you are in parity with organisations of your size.
Thanks, Jeff. With regards to reserves, do you mean free reserves or the total amount of money remaining at the year end?
No, free reserves. So the money that your organisation has in its back pocket for spending on whatever which you need. Nothing restricted. It's just it also helps us, I mean, most reasonably sized organizations should have a decent amount of reserves because, just to ensure that there's continuation in and continuity in your provision. If not, you should probably mention why, but I understand also that the pandemic has absolutely ripped through a lot of people's reserves. So if that's the case, you just have to mention it. Let's see, what is a reasonable proportion of our annual income to ask for? Yeah, good question, Janice. I have to say, in the 20 years I've been in fundraising, the one question I'm asked in fundraising, in grant making, the one question I'm perpetually asked is, how much should we ask for? It's a difficult thing. There is no clear answer on this. It is so difficult to answer. If you are a very small organisation, with a turnover of £30,000 or £40,000, then the proportion of grant that you get is probably going to be a lot bigger than if you are a much larger organisation with a turnover of £400,000. So it's just try and be reasonable and not too greedy. Okay. Who's next? Will UK Youth be providing any one-to-one mentoring for staff as part of our wraparound support? I sincerely hope so, yes. We are working with partners across the UK. So we will try to offer one-to-one support over webinars and online, but we really will be trying to get face-to-face training and support and ideally mentoring into your communities. So we are, obviously this is a massive project, and not knowing where our grantees will be, it's difficult to completely plan out our provision at this stage. But that is a real ambition of ours, to ensure that you will get to see or have the opportunity to see people local to you on a regular basis. And that's us, but also hopefully fellow grantees. We want to build communities amongst all of you. One of the things I would love to do is really early on in this project, get as many of you in one room as possible. So we can all meet and share experiences, because just talking to some of the applicants already, you all have vast experiences and skills, even if you don't work in mental health as such. But you've got huge experiences, and those are invaluable to share. And that's what we really want to do. Yes, it is a condition of the grant that you engage in the wraparound support offered. You can't just take the money and run. You have to engage in the wraparound support. We can only afford to engage 100 organizations. So, a massive part of our assessment process is finding the organizations who we think will benefit the most and can perhaps also contribute. But you do not need to be an expert in mental health to contribute. In fact, some have said, if you are an absolute expert in mental health, how much will you be able to gain from what we have to offer, is a question we're considering as well. Yes, the residential training event does sound fun. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to hopefully push lots of people into raft making and climbing up outdoor climbing walls and things like that, all in the power of promoting and improving mental health. Okay, we've still got time. We're good on time. So how are we doing on chat room questions, Simi? Can we offer it to the floor?
Ooh, we can offer it to the floor. It probably makes more sense to do it that way. However, please can you raise your hand if you would like to ask a question, and wait to be called upon, just so we can maintain some order.
Order. Right.
Hey, Maria, you're up first, please.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to know, through a discussion with a lot of our young people, and because they've been affected with the COVID, a lot of them are underachieving. And so will this fund support the case to enable them to reach, to have extra tuition provided for them?
Yes, that could be a very valid reason. When you are stating that within your application form, it's important to relate that to the mental health aspect. It's not just with the issues that you were describing there. It's not just about having fallen back in educational attainment, isn't it? If someone is struggling already, that also needs to be addressed and dealt with. So make sure you cover both of those points in your application.
And on top of that, also the parents, we came to understand that the parents, a lot of them are suffering because of the behavior and the loneliness. Will that be also, can that be included on the application?
Yes, it can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Janice up next, I think.
Janice.
Hi there. It's been really interesting. Thank you very much. My question is around rurality. Like, we are a really, really long way away from everybody else. We're in the far northwest coast of Scotland, and it's a small community, and the number of children we engage is going to look tiny compared to anyone urban. And we're going to struggle to get to any face-to-face events in London, for example. Edinburgh is quite a push for us. Inverness might be possible. So really, I'm wondering what provision there is for mitigating for that, because from past experience, funders say that they're going to allow for that, but then they use terms like value for money, and we just can't compete because we simply don't have the population up here. But that's why we need the funding, ironically.
I totally get that. We are working with Youth Scotland. So they will be our delivery partner up there to ensure that we can get to you. Important for you to make sure that passion that you've just expressed to us, get that into your application. Okay, that's exactly the sort of thing that we need to hear about and to know about. And yes, I really do not like the value for money term, but what else how else you can encapsulate it in a little bit? It is the value for money is the fact that you're the only kids on the block. If you struggle to get to Edinburgh, well, how's your young person going to struggle get to Edinburgh? That's the argument that you put across, that how important it is that you are there.
Okay, so with that in mind, I've just had an email from the local headmaster because I was asking him about mental health provision, and he just got back to me with basically there isn't any. How much of what he's given me in terms of incredibly depressing statistics about mental health provision up here do I need to use my word count up on? Can I rely on the panel to kind of do their own legwork on that one, or do I need to put in those figures?
You put in what applies to you. So put in the fact that you would be working with your local, that you've got good connections with your and partnerships with your schools, your headmasters. And you could just say it's bereft of provision. That's,
that's a good term. Okay.
A couple of words, be succinct. We're not looking for Chaucer or Blake in these applications. You don't have to write beautiful words. Just
keep it brief.
Keep it brief, and remember, does it pertain to you? If you find yourself talking about all of Scotland, you're going off track.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Laura, next up.
Hello.
Hi there.
Just a couple of questions. One is regarding, we're an animal rescue charity, but we do a lot of work with children and young people using sort of the rescue animals to help well-being. There's obviously a lot of scientific evidence out there. We've built up a lot of evidence over the last 5 years, but obviously you guys want primarily a youth organisation, and because we have those two aspects to our charity, would we then be eligible?
I'm going to be honest with you, you're going to struggle. Even if you get past the eligibility, you may struggle.
Okay.
What I would do is, can you partner with a youth organisation? Where do you get your young people from?
Oh, everywhere. GPs, schools, mental health units are nearby. We work with the Cornwall and Adult mental health NHS place as well. So a lot of we work with a lot of different partnerships at the moment.
And do you have particular youth sessions?
Yeah, so we have a youth project. So we've got a whole project that like we've had funding for over the last few years that is a proportion of our running costs, but that includes just the youth work that we do. And that we run like a course of 6 interventions for them to come up to the farm and have those interventions. And then they extend them if they need them. And that's been running and that's working really nicely.
So you are going to have you're going to have more problems stating your case, but you're going to have to state a really strong case about your connectedness into other youth organisations. And I think the best thing would be a partnership with an established local youth organisation.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my tips to you. Just because it's not so much about the eligibility, it's about the competition against other organisations. You know, if there's a similar organisation, but it's if it's a youth organisation that's paired up with an organisation such as yourself to deliver this work, they're going to be ahead of you.
Okay.
So you've got to that would be my recommendation, to look at making a partnership application.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jan.
Sorry, just had to work out then how to unmute. We are a charity that works with children and young people living with acquired brain injuries following an accident or an illness. Their acquired brain injuries are the biggest cause of death and disability in children and young people in this country, yet it's the least supported, least recognised and least understood disability. You know, we deal with children who've had strokes, to children who've fallen off their bike, to children who've been involved in a road traffic accident. To sum up what one young person said to us is, nobody cares, nobody wants me, and nobody understands, because the needs of children and young people with acquired brain injuries is very different. And a lot have been misdiagnosed as having autism, when actually it's been an acquired brain injury because they had meningitis when they were 3 months old as a baby. Basically, my question is, would you, we are trying to deal with the root cause of a mental health problem. And what the kids are saying to us is everybody just tries to skim over, do so many sessions and think we're going to be fine. So we're dealing with some really deep, complex issues. Would that be something that you would look at? Would you consider acquired brain injury as being a mental health issue?
Well, I think that is the question, because you know, with my limited knowledge, I would see that more as a disability rather than mental health work, where you would be I would define mental health work as you know, provision that can improve someone's mental health.
And that's exactly what we do.
Rather than a disability that may be permanent. But if you are talking about improving the mental health, then that is acceptable. So there was one application where they were dealing with young people with terminal diseases and illnesses. And the mental health issue they wanted to deal with was the fact that they are fully aware from a very young age they are not going to live as long as all of their friends and peers. And so that's something that can be improved to improve the mental health of the person, as opposed to dealing with the disability.
Okay.
So on those grounds, that's the angle that you'll have to come into the application.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Stephanie, next.
Fab, I'll just turn my camera on, sorry. So I'm working with a charity that supports intersex children and young people and their families. And we are, I believe, the only charity in the UK that's focused on specifically the young people with these conditions. I was wondering about the numbers when you talk about how many young people you need to be working with, because we used to do a lot of in-person family days and in-person sessions, but that's all stopped due to the pandemic because the majority of people we work with have comorbidities, and so we're all completely isolated. The majority of our work's migrated online now, but I was wondering, if we could include the numbers of people we would normally work with in these in-person sessions, because those are due to be coming back now that restrictions are sort of lifting and people aren't being confined to their homes as much anymore, even though we haven't worked with them since the pandemic started in person. But also because there's such a severe privacy concern for the young people we work with, due to them facing sort of increased risk of violence, particularly from their peers if it's found out they are intersex. We can't do things like video submissions, we can't include photos, and we, when providing mental health support, specifically want to work with and have worked with professionals who are intersex themselves or have a sort of lived experience of this. So I was also wondering if the wraparound support would be able to work with us on that and understand the restrictions we have that are quite serious sort of safety concerns when working with these young people.
Sure. Okay, so first of all, on the point of how many young people we're expecting you to work with, I should just clarify, we have no expectations, okay? That number of young people is not really going to be an assessment point. It's more for our, when we're looking at our stats and our reach and our impact. So don't stress too much about that number. The reason I focused on it was I don't want it to get inflated by people talking about audience members and so forth, and including those in there, because that can really skew the numbers.
Yeah.
Your point on the fact of, well, provision has been a bit weird over the past year, and we normally work with far more. Yes, put your normal number of young people that you work with. So if you've been closed or your provision has been disrupted over the previous year or currently, but you know it's going to get back up to normal, put up your normal amount of money, young people that you work with. As far as the wraparound support is considered, yes, definitely we will be looking to work with you and for you in the most reasonable way possible. We're going to, at the point that we make our grant offers, we will sketch out what our expectation is of the wraparound support in the first year. However, what we will be expecting to do very early on in the process is we will be going out to all of the grantees and asking you again, what is it you need? How can we support you? How can we engage? What specifics? Okay. We did not want to ask those questions within the application form because we didn't want people to think that this is going to have a bearing on whether they get the grant or not. So we're holding those back until you know you've got the money in the bag. So we get much more honest and truthful and just straightforward answers, because you'll just tell us how it is. And you won't worry about being a bit difficult because your money's in the bag. So yes, with regarding to your specific needs and concerns, definitely want to address those and definitely want to be providing for you.
Very, very quickly on that, just because you mentioned the audience issue, we run sessions online on Zoom like this one, where we have a sort of Q&A with people with their cameras hidden. So they're not always engaging directly. Would they count as an audience, or would they count as people we do face-to-face with?
And how many times do you engage with those people? Or do they turn up once and go?
As as possible, but it's sort of people can choose to attend because they're on different topics each time. And so they attend the ones that are most relevant to them.
Right. I would say, in my respect, I would perhaps look at it with, you know, on this session here, I think we've hit almost 250 people. Mm-hmm. But I would then look at, well, how many have I engaged with, you know, okay, bearing in mind the number of chats that we've had. And, you know, so, yeah, approach it from that. If you were talking about it for yourself, yeah. So just how many do you feel that you've had that engagement with?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Amy.
Hi.
Hi.
Just a very simple question from me. Question 17, obviously about the number of people that you engage. Are you just looking for a number there, or is it like around the same, like 200, 300 word mark?
No, just a number. Just okay. A number, please. Yes, very important. Only put a number in there. Otherwise, right, it will throw out, you know, we won't be able to pull the stats down and then add them up.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks. And Josie.
Hi. My question is about, because I know you've answered some questions about proportionate requests for funding based on your income. What evidence is that based on? Is it on the latest published financial accounts? Or, for example, in our case, our income in our latest published accounts is lower than our current income, which has increased substantially over this financial year. So we would have management accounts to evidence that, but they're not published yet as, you know, financial accounts.
Okay, so what you can do is, if you feel the management accounts are more representative of your organisation, then upload those management accounts with your application and put the figures in the boxes relating to those. And then just put a note in the, I believe it's question 28, saying what you've done and why. And we can, if your other accounts are available online, then we can find those.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And who's up next? Simon.
Hi, Jeff. So this is a great opportunity, and thank you very much for making it available. I'm just asking about question 20, which is about how young people are involved in the design of our plans. And I think we can talk in general about how young people are involved in the organisation and what we'd really like to do. It's just this opportunity sort of just come up. It's fantastic. There's loads that we'd like to do to engage the young people we work with in it. But the closing date is end of next week. So our opportunity to actually get out there and do what we'd normally do is pretty limited. So it's just really what should we do?
So with the previous questions on what the need is and what the solutions to that need is, how do you know?
Yeah, and that we know through working with the young people and talking to them all the time. It's more about...
Okay, so that is what I'm drawing on. So okay. You're going to mention that you do have this engagement. Maybe you've got, you haven't got the time to directly put these questions in front of them now, but have you done this sort of work previously? Do you have these conversations? How do young people engage in your organisation generally?
Yeah, so you're not...
Are they just recipients?
Yeah. I guess what I was asking is, ideally what we do is we sort of have 2 or 3 groups of young people getting together to say, well, there's this opportunity, what would you want to do? What more can we do? It's just our time to do that between now and Sunday, isn't it? Next week is pretty limited.
Yeah, so I'd say whatever limited consultation you can do now with your youth workers and your young people do, and then also back them up by, this is ingrained in our normal level and state of provision that we have these processes in place, and maybe you have a youth council or whatnot, so that we can see that there is that engagement. Because when it comes to the consultation period after we've awarded the grants, we're going to want to know that you are wired into your community of young people.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. And next up we have Eileen.
Morning, Jeff. Hi. Thank you. Mine is a simple question too. I didn't catch it because my phone went off. We're a Christian youth-based charity, and then my phone went off. I heard you talking about religious-based funding. Could you clarify that, because I didn't catch it? Sorry.
Yeah. So the funding, we can't support the promotion of any religion, faith. If you are a faith-based organisation that runs non-faith-based youth work that is open to the entire community and has representatives from people outside of your faith community, then you're fine, you're eligible, but not if it's for the promotion of a particular faith.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. And next up, we've got Neil.
Hello. Hey, Jeff, thanks for that. Hope my Wi-Fi holds out here. And I'm also in my public library, so I apologise for the background noise. You mentioned it a little bit, Jeff. We're a mentoring charity, and we work with young people who don't meet CAM's threshold, and we partner them up with local football clubs and deliver a mentoring program through there to support their mental health. And we have been kind of incubated in that in a bigger charity for about the last 2 years, and we've just recently set up as a CIC in the last couple of weeks. Is that, you mentioned this, that being okay, just to clarify, is that the case? Yeah,
that is fine. Just make sure you talk about it in your application and let us know. Yeah, so just to reiterate, that's completely fine if the way your organization is set up has changed. What we're really focused on is, one, that your organization is stable to continue, that you have a base of young people that you are working with, and also that you've got your staff are experienced and already set up and in the community and working already. Well, we don't, we're needing to hit the ground running. We don't have time for, you to go out for 6 months to try and find young people and staff and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's not the case, which is fortunate. Thank you very much for that. And then just in relation to them, just the documents that we will be submitting will just be from the charity that we've kind of sat in over the past 2 years. Is that okay? That's bigger than us at the moment.
Well, we'll need to see the documents for your new organisation.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I more so meant like last year's financial accounts and things.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, and Laura.
Hi. My question is regarding training costs. So firstly, with the wraparound training and support provision that you are offering the youth workers, which is amazing, we are also a rural charity in Scotland. And so should we be building in travel costs? If so, like, where do we go with that? Like, is it a number of trips a year? Where might they need to travel to? And the other thing is, because you are offering this training and wraparound support, can we include in the budget for them to access other training, or would that not be funded because you are providing training? Like if we wanted them to access a local provision for a certain course, would that be fundable or not?
Yes, it is. So
Okay.
To the second part, you can talk about other training that you've accessed and whatnot, and we're happy to pay for that.
Okay.
As far as where you are, it's travel costs. Yes. I mean, are we going to insist that you come down to London? No. Are we going to offer you an opportunity to come down to our residential centre? Well, if you want to, yes.
We're very keen for our youth worker to attend the training. It's just to, and I like, should we include in the budget travel costs? And if it's to London, is it once a year? Is it 3 times a year? Just so that we allow for that, because that would be an issue for us if we can't have the travel costs funded, because obviously from rural Scotland, it's not a short trip.
Obviously, we've not nailed down exactly the parameters of the provision. I would think most of the stuff will be delivered for you in Scotland at the very least.
Right.
However, there may be, the one thing you may want to trek down for is the residential, if we're able to pull that off. So that might be, okay, so factor in at least that.
And would it just be travel that we would want to factor in? Like, is the accommodation included?
Yes, with the centre that we have at just in the New Forest, we will cover your food, and we provide food and accommodation and the training.
So it's just travel.
Like that, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Nee, you're up next.
Hi, really quickly, I think I've probably answered my own question here. So just to clarify, when you was talking about onwards grant making to individuals and organisations, are you saying your funding would not support that, or we cannot do that going forward?
Our funding cannot be used for that purpose.
Okay, understandable. That's nice and short and sweet. I thought that was the case, but I thought I'm just going to clarify. Obviously, we have a lot of different support coming from different places, so just want to clarify.
We can't do that because just the checks that we will have to do to allow that
Absolutely understandable.
It is just not. It's just not worth us getting into.
Yeah, and it's not something we would even do because it's not. It makes our life a lot harder as well. But thank you, and I do need to dash. But you guys are great, and we'll look forward to speaking to you soon.
Okay. And I'm aware we're coming to the end of time, but I will deal with the last questions that are up here. But for those of you that have to leave, I hope this has been useful for you. Please, please, please don't wait too long before you get your application in. Okay, get your applications in as quickly as you can. Please do not wait until the last day or two. Okay, I know we've got another 10 days or so, but please just get your applications in now. And also, if you have further questions that come up later on, we have got the email address, which is funding@ukyouth.org. Email that, and Simi and I are monitoring that, and so we can respond to your questions there. Okay, we're going to go over to Will Hughes now.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my question. It's two questions actually, and hopefully quite brief. There's an organisation I'm working with, a youth organisation, who one of the directors will, they're a CIC, and one of the directors will be involved with the delivery of the work. The question was just around whether that director will be able to take a salary from this. She's experienced problems from other funders around conflict of interest, so I'm just checking that before they apply.
Yeah, that would be okay.
That's good. And then just a quick one around, it's kind of the definition of youth workers. So the organisation don't employ youth workers, they work with young people. That's okay, I assume.
Who is working with young people?
Well, I think it's just the definition, youth worker. Is that a qualified youth worker? Is that somebody that's working with a young person?
Somebody that's working with a young person for their benefit.
Brilliant. That's all I need. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Cheers.
And is that Umi? Have I pronounced your name correctly?
Hello, yeah, that's Omi.
Omi.
Hey,
Okay.
thank you for this opportunity. I just had a quick question. If we plan to organize short-term projects during these 3 years, will the funding be able to cover that?
As a part of your provision?
Yes.
Yeah, if you've got clear ideas on what you would like to deliver and the benefits of that, then that's fine. So one organisation that run a youth club, and it runs sessions throughout the year, but has come to us saying the incredible benefits that they saw in their young people's mental health when they took them up to their Lake District and dragged them up mountains for 3 days. That's perfectly fine.
And do we mention that in the application? If we have already planned out a project, do we mention that?
Yes, when in the question where we ask you, how will the funding benefit and improve the mental health provision of your organisation? And that's where you talk about it.
All right,
and what
okay.
your plans
Thank
are.
you. Yep. All right, okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And Claire.
Hi, Jeff. I just
Hi.
wanted some clarification around the focus groups. Do all the young people that we engage with have to come under one of those groups, or a percentage of them?
Yeah, there is no have tos with any of it.
Mm-hmm.
We are interested to know what proportion of the young people you work with fall into those groups, how and
Right.
why, and if that relates to your mental health issues that you've identified.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And last but not least, Graciano.
Oh, hi, Jeff. You mentioned that we shouldn't quote statistics from national government and so on. What I want to know is, what if you have got your own statistics? For example, we carry out service evaluation, we distribute questionnaires and so on. So if you have got your own statistics, can you quote those?
Yes, yeah. I mean, the whole point is to talk about your personal experiences and knowledge and expertise as an organization, not what you've read about globally or nationally. Yeah, it's about the work you do, the evidence you have for what you can achieve and deliver.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Right, I believe that's all the hands, and we're just a few minutes over time. Thank you for sticking with us, if you've hung on for this long. I hope that's been really helpful for everyone. We are, let's say, continuing for the next 10 days on this application, so please get your applications in as quick as you can. It really helps us if you don't wait until the last minute. And if you have any other questions, drop us a line on the email address. Okay. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye. And we'll have this recording up on YouTube just as soon as we can, so you can watch it all back again. Take care.
Thank you.